KSDE met yesterday, doing some really good work on how we're looking at re-identifying the next round of schools that will be receiving support under the Kansas Learning Network. Beth is going to give you an update on academic measures of student success, AMOS. You know, we wanted to take this opportunity with the new law to come up with some new acronyms. So this is one of the new ones, AMOS. This actually replaces what once was AYP. Then under the waiver, it was AMOs, Annual Measurable Objectives. And what we've kind of looked at reterming that is with the board's vision, and we're talking about the success of each student, this will be an academic measure of student success. So hats off to Beth and her group for coming up with a new first one out of the gate with a new acronym. So, and then we just want to have some time for council members if they have any reports or comments or questions, and then anything finalized. So, well, I don't anticipate this taking too long this morning, but we just wanted to keep you abreast of some of the work that we've been, our subcommittees have been tasked with. So, Dean, you're in the saddle.
All right, thanks, Brad. So again, yes, this is Dean Zajic, and I'm the coordinator of state and federal funding for our early childhood special education and title services team. Now I got that mouthful out of the way. As Brad said, you know, there's an opportunity here if you do have questions. This isn't the sit and get, so if you do have questions, I'm looking over at our IT person. If are they able to just unmute, or will they be able to raise their hand on their own?
They can join the conversation by double-clicking on our name if joining the chat, or they can just unmute and speak when they want to.
There you go. Okay. So with that, if you have questions, feel free to jump in. Otherwise, we'll have an opportunity at the end as well. So ESSA update. Well, so first of all, we do have some news, a little bit of new news. Kansas was able to submit their application for FY15 and FY16 big grant funds. As some of you may know, we've been sitting on that for a while because of delays at the U.S. Department of Education with making the applications available. But they have been made available. Kansas promptly applied for the funds, and we expect our answer fairly soon. But we are doing a continuation grant, and those grants will allow us to continue to serve the current cohort of 6 schools through the duration of their 5-year award over the next few years. And then, of course, with ESSA, STIG then is phased out after this FY16 grant year and will be rolled into the larger school improvement process. No news is good news. As Brad alluded to, there is no new news out of the U.S. Department of Ed right now. They have yet to publish any new regulations or proposals. Our state application requirements have yet to be published, again, by the U.S. Department of Ed and the Federal Register, or any other official new details. So, as again, Brad has already stated, KSDE is continuing to move forward with implementing the Kansas plan. As we know, the big change with ESSA from ESEA is that it has put the state and our stakeholders in the driver's seat, not the federal government. So this really doesn't slow us down or change our plans. It just allows us to keep doing what we're doing. And then finally, if you do have, well, actually, no, first of all, it's just a reminder that July 26th is the pre-conference date for the special education, or early childhood special education and title services pre-conference in Wichita, Kansas. And there is an ESEA Advisory Council meeting scheduled for that day on July 26th. Got someone here saying that there's no sound in Topeka. If anyone else is having issues, let us know. Otherwise, I'm going to keep going. Oh, we got it now. Okay, they're good. There's so the pre-conference, you can go ahead and register. We do ask that you go ahead and register at the link that is provided there. But if for whatever reason you can't click on it now, or if you still have additional questions, please contact Pat Bone here at KSDE, and you can see her email address there as well. In addition, you are welcome we are inviting all the ESEA Advisory Council members to attend the rest of the leadership conference that will be held that weekend in Wichita. And your registration and travel and hotel costs will be covered by our team. And again, please go ahead and register for the entire conference if you would like to attend, and contact Pat Phone for details on registration and reimbursement. And with that, if you do have any questions, feel free to, you can either throw them out now, or we can wait till the end, or if you can email either Kate Cateman or myself, Dean Zajic. We're kind of heading up one of the many teams that's drilling down into ESEA right now. Or you can visit the KSDE website at the link posted for upcoming FAQs, details, and other information related to the ESEA. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Tammy.
All right. This is Tammy Mitchell, and I have coordinated the work for the KLN subcommittee. And we met yesterday and had some really, really good conversations. So I just wanted to tell you where we're at in our work. We plan to have another meeting yet in June before the face-to-face big advisory meeting that Dean mentioned on July 26th. But yesterday, we're still thinking about this whole idea of changing the conversation from having low-performing schools to schools that have multiple risk factors. And so that has, just really guided all of our conversations and our focus, because we want to focus on causes instead of results. And so we've been looking at data. We're looking at this academic plus methodology. And in this methodology, we have 51% of it being weighted on the API for math and ELA, because according to what we read so far in ESEA, whatever we come up with it should include and has to include academics as the majority, but we're saying 51% is the majority. And then the plus would be 49% of the risk factors that impact student achievement for math and ELA. And so that's just kind of the overarching thought process. So yesterday we examined several different models and looked at data. We looked at it was kind of mock data because it includes 2015 API data only, and then these risk factors. And so we say it's mock because if we decide that this is how we're going to identify schools eligible for comprehensive support and improvement, then we would use 2015 and 2016 API data. Just as a refresher, and we've been talking around here, we kind of forget what you haven't heard and what we've already told you 20 times. So we apologize if you already know this, but when moving forward, the schools that used to be kind of considered priority schools, that 5% of schools, we're using the ESEA language, which is comprehensive support and improvement, and then how we identify them is going to be a little bit different. No decisions have been made yet, but this is what we looked at. We looked at API plus these risk factors, the percent of students absent for 10 or more days, the percent of mobile students, and we define mobile students as students who change school during the school year, the percent of students eligible for free and reduced lunches, the percent of students with cumulative poverty, and that metric is poverty over 3 or 4 years. How many families are stuck in that cycle of poverty, whereas free and reduced lunch is just that 1 year of poverty indication. Percentage of students with disabilities, percentage of English learners, percentage of migrant students, expulsion and suspension rate, and the percentage of teachers new to the building. So those were the risk factors that we looked at, and we looked at spreadsheet after spreadsheet of which schools would be that 5%. So 31 to 35 schools with all of these risk factors. So so as we were looking at those, there were natural breaks. When we looked at this, 2 schools in our state were high on every single one of those 8 risk factors, which was really, it was really eye-opening. But there was a natural break at 31 schools that have 4 or more risk factors. And our participants that were present yesterday were from Topeka, Kansas City, and Liberal. Our friends from Wichita were unable to attend, and we'll catch them up at a later date. But by looking at it this way, those people from those districts, they were able to look at the feeder patterns within their district, and they were able to see, okay, this K2 or this K3 building feeds into this 4-5 building that feeds into this middle school that feeds into this high school, and they're all in that top, 31 to 45 schools. It's a feeder pattern, and so it really opened up the conversation to that we feel like we're really on the right track, because if we identify just individual schools and don't provide support really at the district level, then districts are never able to really get to the heart of what's really going on, and that looking at the patterns is so important. So we looked at all of these risk factors, and we talked about, well, which ones mean more than others, which ones don't necessarily need to be included. And we also talked about just in the back of our mind, because we know that we have to set exit criteria. And so out of these risk factors, we also were like, well, which ones can we impact and change, and which ones just are what they are? And so that opened up some good conversation about, when you look at buildings with high expulsion and suspension rates, there are things that can be done about policies and school climate. There are things that can be done to impact that. When we're looking at the percentage of new teachers to a building, really looking at the root cause of that. Is it just that, a group decided they were all going to retire at the same time, and so you have teachers new to the building, or is that an indicator of a climate and culture issue where you've got a lot of new teachers every single year, and what can be done at the district level to support buildings and retaining staff? So, like I said, really good conversations about, okay, if we use this to identify schools, what can districts and schools do to improve some of these things, and which ones are ones that are it's just the way it is, and there's not a lot that can be done to improve that. So our next step, because we are going to meet again in June, and the group wanted to look at maybe mobility and migrant as a combined category, or mobility and poverty as a combined category, just trying to maybe streamline, instead of always, having all 8, streamlining a little bit to see what that does. And then as far as the percentage of English learners, they wanted to look at, instead of all English learners, which ones are at levels 1 and 2 with their language acquisition. This is going to be kind of not imaginary data, but sort of, because we would have to go all the way back to 2013 ELPA data to see that, and we don't know that we would have ELPA 21 data to really work with, at least, not immediately, but maybe in the future having that in the back of our minds.
I might want to jump in. This is Brad. I notice here someone's providing a little bit of input about who should be involved in this conversation about in regards to teacher retention. We also have at the same time the Blue Ribbon Task Force that is working on or digging into the teacher shortage issue, and really looking at the data and having conversations about, as far as a state perspective, what are the real issues? Is it teachers leaving the state? Is it really what they're noticing early on is that there's not necessarily a graying effect, that our teacher population is getting older. It's really more of a greening effect to where our average age is getting younger, but we're having a hard, I didn't make that up, someone else did. But that it really is statewide a retention issue. But what this group was looking at was even more locally and specific with individual buildings within a district. They may need to be addressing some retention things, and absolutely, locally they're going to have to engage their staff and their communities and their parents to have those conversations if they are a building that the data shows they're having high turnover. But I think the thing that came out of the conversation is even when you look at just assessment results and what buildings qualified, they also showed up on multiple lists, some of them even all 8, that they have multiple risk factors, and it wasn't, I don't believe that there was an individual building just based on academic that did not have multiple risks, at least 3 to 4 to 5, all the way up to 8 of those risk factors. So anyway, good question.
So our next step too will be in June. We will look at some of this other data, and we're going to make some decisions so that we have a recommendation to bring to the full ESEA Advisory Council in July regarding the formula or methodology for selecting schools eligible for comprehensive support and improvement. So really good conversations, really good talks about, okay, if schools are identified based off of risk factors, what does the needs assessment and root cause analysis process look like? And so next in June as well, we'll be having Michelle Hayes, the Kansas Learning Network director, share about what the new rendition of the Kansas Learning Network will look like and how that support will be very, very tightly aligned to the work that this group is doing. So that's where we're at after our meeting yesterday. And if you have any questions at all, please don't hesitate to contact me, Tammy Mitchell, tmitchell@ksde.org. I'd love to hear from you. Thanks. I will pass it on to Beth.
So Brad has shared with you that we did rename the group. We previously were the AMO group for annual measurable objectives. Those measurable objectives have been redefined in ESSA, and keeping with the vision of measuring student success, we named this the Academic Measures of Student Success. So this summer, probably in August, the online authenticated application will open for all districts to go in and check your data and make corrections. This is if you've had access to this application in the past. Instead of going to the measurable objectives, you'll just go to AMOS. Our IT group will make sure that all of the passwords and privileges get transferred. So after you check your data in August, then we'll do some internal work on everything, and we expect to release the report card to the state board in October. The report card will, for the 2016 data assessment data, will have participation rates and performance results, and of course we'll still continue to report graduation rates. And for 2017, we'll add science to the mix for participation and performance reports. And then in 2017, we'll actually, after we've had a chance to look at a couple years' data, and we'll be back to you several times between now and then, we will actually identify the long-term measurable goals in ELA and math that the law requires us to do. And we'll also identify a goal for English language proficiency. That we have to have at least 2 years of data for the ELA and math. We'll be looking at the goal. It'll be a little bit marginal with 1 year of the EL data, but to be in compliance with what the law is requiring at this point in time. We expect to be able to identify the goals, let all the districts and buildings know what the expectations what they'll be measured against will happen at that time. And then for the 2018 report card, all the subgroups identified in the new legislation will be on the report card, and all of the goals will be identified, and we'll actually make a report on that. That'll be the first year we actually measure buildings and districts to the goals that have been established. That's where we are. Our group is going to take a little bit of a hiatus for a while, work on getting the report card to function appropriately. And until we actually get the assessment data, which we don't expect to receive here at the agency until mid-July, we really can't go forward in setting goals until we have 2 years of data to look at. So you probably won't be hearing from me until fall. If you have questions, though, feel free to contact me.
Okay, at this time, we would like to just open it up. If you have comments, questions, anything to share with us, they just unmute their locally, and hopefully we'll be able to take turns. Any comments or questions?
Brad, this is Sue Givens.
Hi, Sue.
Is there going to be any correction made or any opportunity for considering the issues with testing this year as far as how they may have impacted results with student wait time and all of the different factors that affected the testing situation?
The answer is yes. What CETE does, not only during the testing window, but then after the window's closed, is they go through and they look for, I'm going to use the word anomaly, and I'm not even know if I can spell it, but they try to look at the data to find out, are there inconsistencies? Were there places where it appears that a group of students or whatever, that there were items missing, and so yes, they will be working on and all of that. In the meantime, we also had a group, the CRAC committee, Assessment Advisory Council, met, was it this week, Beth? Earlier this Tuesday of this week, to really talk about what do we want, because of some opportunities with ESSA, but more importantly, the board's new vision and the accreditation model where we want to head. What do we want the assessment to be? So we'll be sharing some results from that also on not only the results that you're going to get back from this assessment, but the reporting of it. What do we want to do to move forward? But yeah, CETE will be monitoring, or they are currently monitoring, the results of this year's to be able to see if there is a valid claim. Probably more with the performance items than, because we haven't seen a lot of issues with the machine scoreable part, but other than the wait time. But yes, that is one thing that they do, is look at it to see if there are valid, reliable claims that come from that. Absolutely.
I would just offer, I guess I have three things. One, the testing window closes today. Hallelujah, and thank all of you for having your students take the test. Two, that's why we have that preview window in August for you to go in and look at your data. If when you get the data back and you're reviewing it and you don't think that you have your notes and everything and you think there's some things that we might have missed, then contact me personally and we'll do some further investigation into it. And then the final thing, as far as on the accountability side, and that we will be identifying new schools, we've made a decision that the API for last year and this year will only include the machine scoreable. So Regardless of what happens with the performance tasks, when you see an API in the building report card or on the AMOS application, you're going to see the API that will just be the machine scored for these 2 years, because we have to have something we can compare, and adding the performance task to that doesn't give us a comparison for the 2 years. So we've kind of addressed that in 3 different ways, I think.
Other questions, comments? This is my teacher wait time. Well, Bert, are you still on?
Yes, I'm still on.
All right, well,
Can you hear me?
yes,
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay.
So kind of the plans moving forward with the July meeting, we will be trying to bring to this group some final recommendations, since Bert's our chair, some final recommendations that we would like this group to consider, we would then take to the state board, hopefully early fall, August, September, for the direction that we want to go in Kansas in regards to ESSA. With that being said, that it is it's just a component of the direction we're trying to move in the state. It's not driving the direction we want to move in the state. So we'll be bringing that to you, Bert.
Okay.
And the committee.
We're ready.
Any other comments? All right, well, we thank everybody. Hopefully we shared something with you new today that kind of helps you see the work and we want to really thank all the people that are giving up their time on all these subcommittees to help us work through this. Thank you.